and I do the best I can to represent what I've learned through them in the character of Celeste. I need Celeste's voice in this book because I want you to know where many of the thoughts in this book about ancestors and afterlife came from. They didn't come from me, as a white man. Celeste's character claims ownership for ideas that weren't wrought by me or my white ancestors. Gerda's conversation points are reflective of the many voices that have skeptical concerns about God, the afterlife, and ancestors. Her character touches on experiences I've been told about interactions and visions, but from a critical standpoint. I'm both a person of faith and a skeptic, and Gerda reflects the skeptical part of my personal contradiction. Writing across race and culture and gender is a fraught enterprise. And in representing these composite characters, I am sure I have made mistakes. I welcome any critical feedback with an open mind and heart. In addition, my story is rooted in my memory, and most of the conversations are paraphrased. Almost all the names of people in this book, except for my family, have also been changed and details obscured to protect people's privacy. Having said all this, I want to emphasize that the afterlife-focused stories are based on real experiences. The facts about our family business and the story of our funeral home are also sourced from both written and oral memory. The story of the Christiana resistance is sourced from 3 books on the subject, noted in the back of the book. My conversations with my therapist are paraphrased and are summaries of approximately 2 years of therapy. My own stories are told as factually as I can tell them. If you're from the Parksburg community, you will likely recognize some of these stories. I want to assure you that I've done my best to honor your stories, including this craft decision to use composite characters. If I failed in any way, I want you to know that it was not my intention. I love you all, and I hope this book gives voice to many of the things you've told me and my family over the years. This is a book for those of you who, like me, want to reconnect with our deceased loved ones, make sense of the different experiences we may have had since their passing, and understand a more progressive view of the afterlife. If those are some of your goals, I hope my journey around the dead and dying can provide some insight. The afterlife is waiting to reconnect, and I'm hoping this book can provide a path to connection. Writing this book has taken far more energy than it should have. It's not because there's a lack of talking points about ways the dead speak to us right now. I could share a lot of stories about both the dying and the living connecting with their dead. This book took a lot of energy because I wrote most of it during the pandemic, while working long hours as a funeral director. The pandemic brought us a taxing 20% more death calls than the last 5-year average. On top of the high volume, trying to guide grieving families during a pandemic felt all-consuming and, on a number of occasions, caused tough bouts with professional burnout. 2 months after my first book was published, in November 2017, I made a trip out to Los Angeles to record a podcast with Rob Bell in his backyard studio. The interview is episode 174 of the Robcast. During the interview, Rob prompted me to talk about stories I had heard about deathbed visions. I told him that about 1/4 of the families we serve have some kind of story to tell about the thin space between death and life. Unknown to me at the time, a variety of reports on the prevalence of deathbed visions suggest something similar. One study that analyzed hospice patients reported 39% of 575 families interviewed claimed that their loved ones had a deathbed vision. In a nationwide Japanese survey, out of 2,221 families, 21% of the dying had seen deathbed visions, with most of those being visions of ancestors. It's hard to define what constitutes a deathbed vision, and that may be part of the reason that there's such a discrepancy between one study and the next. Generally, deathbed visions are seen as something other than a hallucination, because the dying person who experiences deathbed visions is otherwise lucid and demonstrating